Okay, welcome back. We're on page 487. This time the topic is about copyright. The law, and look, I am not a lawyer, and I'm going to give you some advice, but read the textbook and don't step over the line. Bottom line is, the creator of the work, whatever it is, it could be audio, it could be video, or it could even be a web page design, a physical design, like a 2-column design. That could be considered a creative work. The creator retains the rights to those things. They are not obligated to specifically tell you that. In other words, they don't have to have a little copyright symbol with a date out there. There's no indication and no copyright symbol, and yet all these things are copyrighted. Okay? You don't have to claim they're copyrighted. Just by putting them out there, they're under the copyright rules. Okay? Do you understand that? So you cannot just go to a web page and start pulling audio and video and designs and graphics and stuff off their page. Otherwise, you're going to get in trouble. So, one more time. All material on the web essentially is copyrighted. Now, there are some licensing issues that you can deal with. One of which is called fair use. All right. And this is kind of sticky, so I'm going to go through it kind of slow and easy. There's a little bullet list there, but let's just go through it. Fair use was specifically designed so that, let's say I'm doing a movie review, all right? And so in this review that's 5 minutes long, I show a 15-second clip of the film, and I say, hey, this is a really good part of this film. You need to really see this. And so I pop up 15 seconds of the film. Am I violating the copyright rules? Well, because I'm doing a review of the movie and I'm only showing a tiny little piece, that's considered fair use. In other words, I didn't have you watch the entire movie. I just one tiny little chunk. Okay, so it was intended for doing analysis, reporting, teaching, research. That's what it was intended for. That's what fair use is. Now, they give you some little guidelines about how do you decide where you've stepped over the line? And once again, I am not a lawyer, so don't you dare take my advice to heart. I'm just a teacher, so I may ask you questions on an exam, but I'm not going to represent you in court. It should be what's called limited use. In other words, I'm using it for my own personal, non-profit kind of thing. And limited use means it's not going to be 1,000 gazillion people going to be using this thing. And typically, limited use means I'm not making any money off of this, at least not directly. I mean, if it was a television show, maybe the advertisers are making money and all the rest of that stuff. But if I'm doing a movie review, I'm not making money off of the movie. In fact, if anything, it's the other way around. I'm probably promoting the movie. But here it goes. If possible, it should be talking about factual things, not a discussion about, the beauty of this particular graphic, but, more about the specifics of what's in it. It should be a small quantity, like for reviewing a movie, a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, like the blooper reels, right? I mean, those are tiny little chunks, a couple minutes long, and doesn't affect the sales of the original. Here's the real kicker. Fair use is okay if nobody is affected monetarily. I am not gaining money because I'm using this thing, and the people that are selling it are not losing money. So I'm not gaining money, and they're not losing money. If you, for example, did a movie review and you just so happen to have the entire movie out there, well, that means they're losing sales, and that's not fair use. So, okay, kind of makes sense. All right. So it doesn't impede them from making money. Now, there is an awful lot of folks out there that provide licenses that will allow you to do more than just fair use. There's one called Creative Commons. If you've never been out there, you probably need to go type in Google and Creative Commons. So, and this is just a group, an organization that talk about we intend to share our work, okay? In other words, the intention is not to limit, the intention is to share. And it's really kind of cool because it allows the author of whatever this is to be very specific on what the rules are. It might be, yes, anyone could use it for any purpose as long as you have a credit that says where it came from. That would be one use. Or maybe it'd be, you get to pick. You go through this little list of things, what you have to do, what features you want, what optional information, and then presto changer, you can get a license. So YouTube, for example, uses this type of stuff. There's lots of it out there. Anyway, and the idea is you read the license, it'll tell you what it is you can. It could be that they actually not only allow you to copy the work, they encourage you to copy the work. I mean, that's the way it works. Okay, so you need to check that out. Reasonable license agreements. That's designed for both the consumer and the creator. Okay. On page 487, we kind of jump around in this chapter a bit, don't we? Now we're going back to CSS stuff. On page 488, they have an example of how to do a drop menu. I'm not actually going to do the demo. It's there in the book. If you want to, it's a hands-on exercise. And if you just follow the little section, grab the little CSS from over here and paste it into here and paste it into there, that'll kind of work. But I'm not going to actually do it. I may ask you some questions about how you can have a drop-down menu system using CSS, but I'm not actually going to do it here in class, or in lecture rather. The next thing, so just to show you what this thing looks like, this, for example, this is just a thing from the book where you click on, you know how maybe we did the hover thing, right? So I hover over a button, and if that section has content, it'll drop this thing down, and they make this into a block content, and they put in the border, they put in the background, they put in the text, and all the rest of these things, and it's actually pretty cool. I mean, but it's kind of mechanical. You don't actually learn much. All you're doing is typing what it has in the book. Okay, the next thing to talk about is the transform thing, the transform property. There's some really cool things you can do with transform. Transform will allow you to take, typically we're talking about an image, but we're talking about rotating and scaling. You can warp something, you make it taller or wider. You can skew the thing along the axis. You can do all sorts of translations where you move it in coordinate space. In other words, from over here it goes to over here, and that kind of stuff. It repositions the things. The example that they use in the book was rotating an image. Now that looks pretty cool. I mean, I've got an image there, and yes, it could be just perfectly square, and it would look pretty cool. But this makes it look a little cooler. So you use a rotate, and you tell it how many degrees, and -3 degrees, would go counterclockwise, and +3 degrees would go clockwise. So you can kind of figure out how you want this thing to turn. It's kind of cool. The other one is the transition properties on page 491. Transition is like the fade effect. I don't know if you guys ever remember, if you were a PowerPoint warrior in the Army and you had to produce all these gazillion briefings, there was a little cool thing where you had transition between one slide and the next slide. You could have it fade in, or you could have it checkerboard, or all sorts of weird stuff that happened. Same thing here. You can use this transition property in CSS to do all sorts of really cool fade things. So on page 492, tables 11.7 and 11.8 go through what it is you can do with these transitions, and it's pretty cool. You can, like, for example, when you hover over a menu item, you could have it slowly fade in and fade out. That'd be kind of cool. Like have a little star that appears and lets you know that you're actually on it, and it fades back out. So I don't know, something goofy. And a lot of people get a kick out of that kind of stuff, and it's pretty easy to do with CSS. A couple of lines of CSS and presto change up, you've got something that's kind of sort of special. Okay, again, I'm not going to demo that stuff. I may ask you some questions about what it is it does, but I'm not going to actually ask you to do one. Okay, 495, once again, jumping around like a proverbial frog. We're talking about Java. Okay, so Java's been around for quite some time. It's kind of one of the older languages. Well, not oldest, clearly, but it's been around a long time. So Java is a programming language, but we're not doing any programming in this course. Okay. By the way, there's a thing called JavaScript, and they are not related. JavaScript and Java are not related. Okay, they sound like they're related, because Java is in the name, but JavaScript is not Java. They're not related at all. Okay, so Java is a kind of a neutral programming language. I can write Java and it will run on a Macintosh. It'll run on a PC. It'll run on a Linux box. It'll run on practically anything. That was the beauty of Java. You write this program one time and it'll work everywhere. I mean, that was the cool part about it. Basically, universal programming. Kind of cool. Now, I'll admit the universal programming was kind of dull and boring because you couldn't use all the features you wanted because, well, that feature doesn't exist over here in Linux, so that's not available. So it's kind of a pain. But anyway, bottom line is, it was mostly, it used to be used everywhere. You would run Java on your machine, you'd run Java on the servers, and now it's mostly just done at the server. There's not that many people that run Java on a client anymore. It's kind of fell out of favor a tiny bit. Now, if I was to run Java on the server, then you, the web programmer, would have some sort of a little Java thing that runs. We used to call them serverlets. A thing that fits onto like Internet Information Server or Apache or whatever the system is that you're running to host your web page. And so it would receive data and do its little thing and spit it out. Now, there is a way that you can send Java down to the client and have the browser run it. Okay, there is a way you can do that. However, that's kind of falling out of favor. I mentioned at the very beginning, there's only 2 browsers on the planet that still do that. That's the good old Internet Explorer. It's been around for a million years, and Firefox. That's it. Okay, if you got Chrome, if you're on an Apple machine, I'm sorry, you're not going to be running Java in the client. Okay, just not going to happen. Okay. So, I'm going to show you how this thing works, but there's not much of a need to know how to do this because I'm suggesting that you not do it. Okay. So, to fire up a Java thing, I use this thing called an object element. So I'm going to go in here and say this is an object. And object basically means, I'm not making this up. Object basically means I don't know what the heck this thing is. That's what that means. Then I'm going to go in here and give it the type. And I still don't know why that doesn't come up all the way. So I want to say it's an application X Java applet. Okay. That's my object. Now, every one of these objects, because it works like the command prompt. This object is a command prompt. If I type in something at the DOS command prompt, I'll type in the name of the command and then have these optional parameters after it, like dir *.txt. dir is the command, and then *.txt is an argument that goes with that command. So that's how this thing works. You have this object thing, and then you have these parameters. So I need a bunch of parameters in here to make this thing work. So the first parameter I'm going to need is a parameter whose name is where actually the thing is, the code. Where the heck is this guy? That's the weird part. And so it's name value. And so I would put in, for example, in this case, did I even copy the Java guy down? No, I didn't. So I'm just going to make up something. So this is going to be, I don't know, testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's good enough. Class. Okay. So this name value pair. So the first one is like the thing in the command line. And then I could have other parameters underneath it. And what parameters might those be? Well, I don't know. It depends on the guy who wrote the guide. In other words, *.txt made sense in the context of a dir command or a copy command, but certainly doesn't have anything to do with, you typing in Microsoft Word or something. Okay, this is a good place to start for the 15-minute mark, and we'll pick this thing up again in just a few.